All right, guys, we're back. I told you we were going to go live, at least try to go live every single day. Well, I'm also going to try and bring on some awesome guests. As you guys saw, we started things off this season with Laquan Jones. I had to bring on my main man, Blaine Grisak from Turf Show Times. And furthermore, in case you guys don't know, it's a little important lore about us. He's actually the OG guy at DTR. So it was Blaine and I when we started the podcast. Blaine, I don't even know how many episodes. We did a lot of episodes together, but welcome in. It's not your first time, won't be your last time here, but always a pleasure when we're able to link up and talk some ball, man.
Yeah, man, I'm looking forward to it. It's like our band got back together. We're on a short. We got a little reunion set going on here, and got a lot to talk about. So I'm looking forward to it, and appreciate you having me on.
Of course, man. You've been killing it over at Turf Show Times. You do great things. Man, you know, with Jordan leaving the Rams now, the Rams coverage, you're probably number one for me. I'm not going to lie. I don't get a chance to read a ton of articles, but I always go out of my way, and I'm biased. We've been friends forever, but I love reading what you have to say. And obviously I love, our dialogue over text, but now we're actually letting people know how we feel via video, right? So that's always good. But guys, before we get into this, because we have a lot we want to discuss, obviously I know you guys are probably wondering what the hell's going on with Stafford. So we'll talk about a bunch of stuff, right? Willie Lampkin, of course, he is on the cover of the thumbnail. But Blaine, I want to give you the floor here, because here on this channel, when I have people on, I always say, plug in whatever you want to plug in. And Blaine, you have a message for my audience, so please have at it.
All right. So, you can find all my stuff over at turfshowtimes.com. Like Jake said, I'm putting out some great stuff over there. I'm working on, hopefully this afternoon. I posted clips last night on Twitter, but hopefully this afternoon I'll have a film review up on the preseason game. I've watched that game 3 times now, so pray for my mental health.
Gone.
Yeah. No, and then yes, you can read all my stuff over at turfshowtimes.com. And then the last thing I'll plug is just kind of a little bit of a personal thing. My mom a couple of years ago was diagnosed with an ovarian cancer, and this past week she started some chemo at the Mayo Clinic in Arizona. So I think Jake has the GoFundMe there in the description. Unfortunately, because she's a small business owner, she doesn't have health insurance, or health insurance is kind of out of network, so everything's out of pocket for those costs. So anything helps, and anything is appreciated.
Yeah, man. No, absolutely. As you know, I donated, and if you can, that's great. If you can't, please share it around. A share does, just as much if you can't. But Blaine, I'm sorry, obviously, that your mom's going through that. Here for you, of course. And and I'm sure, the Ramley is as well. So I put that in the comments section, or I'm going to put in the comment section after we finish the show. But it's in the description for now. So if you're looking for the link for the GoFundMe, it is in the description. But Blaine, we have business to attend to, right? We have a lot of things we want to talk about. Let's start off right off the rip. Matthew Stafford's in a hyperbolic time chamber. No, I'm kidding. But whatever the hell that thing was today,
right?
The immortal, and not spelled with the I, but A. It's like this red light therapy thing. Blaine, have you ever had red light therapy before? Have you ever
I have actually. So my stepdad is a physical therapist, and so
perfect.
Just last year that they got one of those like red light things, and I tried it, and it was weird. It was different. But if it works, it works. So
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. I did that, and then the vibration plate. So I've done some therapy myself in that regard involving red light, but there's a lot more to it than that. Obviously, it's not just a $2,000 or whatever, however much it is. It's really expensive, but it's not just a really expensive red light therapy. I'm sure there's more to it. But everyone's freaking out about Matthew Stafford right now. And I get it. Like, the season's approaching. You don't like seeing giant gadgets, or as Seattle Rams called it on Twitter, a giant beer can, where your quarterback goes in there. You don't like that. Plus, Sean McVay did basically tease that he was going to practice on Monday when he told us on Saturday. So I get it. I'm not concerned, Blaine. Just people that I've talked to, that are close to the situation at hand, I've been told not to worry about this. Now, I like your place in this because I don't get the vibe like when I watch your stuff and I read your stuff and I see your tweets and whatnot. I don't get a vibe that you're freaking out over this, but I do like your approach. You're at least saying, hey, this is going to be something potentially that he has to manage the whole year. So yeah, give everyone your thoughts on kind of this whole situation going down.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's time, like you said. I don't think it's time to hit the panic button right now. Like you said, the Rams don't seem too worried about it. At the same time, I don't think it's nothing. It's not something just to completely brush aside. I think you go back to 2022 and Rams downplayed his elbow, and I think this is a completely different situation. But at the same time, they downplayed the elbow. Nothing's wrong. He's fine, whatever. And then in February, Sean McVay comes out and says, people forget how big of a deal that was. It's like, no, we didn't forget how big of a deal it was because you never made it a big deal. You said it was nothing. So I think it is something to pay attention to. You never want your 37-year-old quarterback to be dealing with a back injury, and then Stafford has a history of back injuries. He had the spinal contusion back in 2022. That's what ended his season. So it's one of those things where, is this something that's going to affect his arm strength? Is it something where he's not going to get as much velocity on the ball? Is it one of those things where, one hit and is he just done? There are a lot of fair questions here. But at the same time, we do. I think until Stafford takes a field for the first time, he actually practices, and people start to see that he's okay. I think there's going to be a little bit of hesitancy on where Stafford's at, but yeah, we still have about a month to go until the start of the season. So I wouldn't hit the panic button just yet, but I think as the season approaches day by day, I think things start to get just a little bit more worrisome.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, honestly, if I didn't have, those comments that were made to me, by those people, those sources, I would probably be a little concerned, but I'm going to trust him on this one. And I think it's the thing here. And this is what I've been saying for anybody that, comments on my stuff. Is like, you're not worried. It's like, well, hear me out. Matthew Stafford, we already knew it's documented, earlier in, the offseason program, he was feeling some back, uncomfortability, if you will. Right. So nothing's changed from that standpoint. Right. Which I'm not really surprised. A 37-year-old with back issues. Hell, Blaine, I woke up today. I didn't like the way my back felt either. And
it only gets worse on the other side of 30. Let me tell you. I will say too, though, is like I think during the preseason game, they were or right before it or something. McVay mentioned that Stafford had gone through like a workout and thrown I think 60 or so passes. And so was this a reaction to that? Was he just a little bit sore from that? So I think that workout is something to kind of keep in mind, I guess, with him missing practice today too.
Oh, of course. And then the other side of it is, so you have that side, right, where he already expressed the back concern. But then the other side is, man, I have no doubt in my mind, Matthew Stafford throughout this whole process, if these were games, he'd be playing. Yeah. And that's the difference. And I think we also have to understand something here. One, and I've said this on the show multiple times now, I don't want my players practicing injured. Okay. If you want to go and play in the Super Bowl injured, I get that, right? If you want to go play in a regular season game injured, you only have 17 guaranteed. I get that. Practicing injured does nobody favors. So if he's even a little bit banged up, I don't want him practicing at all. And I think they should be cautious with him. And then the other side of that is that we're talking about Matthew Stafford here. Like, I mean this in the nicest way possible because he's one of my all-time favorite players. He's been damaged goods since Detroit. He has. This is somebody who's constantly banged up because he was put through the ringer in Detroit. And so now it's like, it is kind of funny, Blaine. I'm sure you've noticed this, how people always act like, oh, this is the beginning of the end. It's like, Have you not been on the Matthew Stafford train this whole time? Because guess what? Since he was a rookie to now, he is always under fire injury-wise. He's as tough as they come, and that's just the reality of it. It sucks for him, and I hope to God he's able to live a life after football without pain. But it's probably not going to be the case, Blaine. He probably has tons of pain, and obviously there are better days, here and there, but he's a quarterback in the NFL, and his first, let's say, 10 years, he had no protection whatsoever at the most important position and was constantly getting banged up. I guess maybe I'm just so used to Matthew Stafford and being banged up that when he started feeling pain and injury and all of that with the Rams the first time, I wasn't surprised. And I remember, and I want to see if you remember this. You probably do. The report that came out, it was Diana Rossini, and she said in the Super Bowl season, he was 65% healthy at the end of the year.
Yeah, no, I remember that, and he had one of the better postseasons of in recent memory. And I think you talk to any of Matthew Stafford's former teammates. I think Andrew Whitworth has said it. This is one of the toughest guys that I've ever played with, that I've ever played for. You talk to any past coaches that have coached Stafford, and they say the same thing. So yeah, I mean, this isn't. Stafford's not going to pull an Anthony Richardson and be tired and ask to come out of the game. Like, this is a guy that's going to be on the field. You're going to have to. Coaches are going to have to physically hold him back to not play.
It's true. I wouldn't want to have to be the dude that has to tell Stafford that you're benched today because you're banged up, because he's not coming out of the game and he is going to talk back to you. So, no, I agree. That's about as much as we could really say on that topic. There really just isn't much to it. Obviously, one headline you can talk about it, but we're not going to try and spend the entire time. We did address it, though. So let's move on to what was our first segment before all this came out, the Rams season projections. Now, Blaine, everyone knows where I stand on this, that is watching the channel right now. I've had them at 13-4. And winning the Super Bowl. I couldn't tell you who the hell they're playing because I always go out on a limb and try and guess. And yeah, I'm not doing that anymore. I think it'll be the Bills, but I don't know. Who the hell knows? But the point being, 13-4 Super Bowl, beating the Eagles in the NFC title game. That's kind of what I see. But what are your season expectations? Maybe even any stat projections, and where do you think the Rams end up at the end of the season?
Yeah, I kind of see them in that this is under the stipulation, of course, that Stafford is healthy and plays well, and then the offensive line stays together for the majority of the season. But I kind of have them maybe not as high as 13-4. I kind of have them at, I think, 11-6, 12-5. That's kind of where I see them right now. I think this is a team that they are built to take that next step, to go to the Super Bowl. Jared Verse is in year 2 and will have that playoff experience. Same with Braden Fisk. Kobe Turner is in year 3 and has 2 years of playoff experience now. Same goes for Byron Young. That defense is a lot more weathered and a lot more just experienced than it has been the last 2 years. This is an offense that went out. They signed Devontae Adams, who even if you get, I think he doesn't need to be the all-pro Devontae Adams that he was in Green Bay. If he's even, I think, 75-80% of that, I think that's still an upgrade over what the Rams had in Cooper Kupp at the end of last year. Unfortunately, just with his loss of explosiveness, Puka Nacua is Puka Nacua. I still just it's wild how underrated he is. People have him outside the top 10 wide receivers, and in my opinion, he's closer to 3 than he is 10. Honestly,
agreed.
Yeah. So, and then obviously, people here might blast me for kind of maybe playing both sides, but I think Tyron Williams is still he may not be like a Saquon Barkley level running back, but he's still very good and a valuable player in this offense. So yeah, and they just signed him to an extension. They get I think an explosive running back in Jarquez Hunter, and we'll kind of see what role he has. I think this offense has the potential to be really fun this year. I'm excited to see kind of if McVay adds any more twists to it and what those look like. I've told you about maybe implementing some 21 personnel, and I tried to force feed you the Kool-Aid there, but I'm still crossing my fingers and holding out hope.
I've
but
been
yeah,
doing
no,
that since 2017,
yeah,
man.
you and me both. But no, I think this team, the ceiling is obviously the Super Bowl. I kind of see them, but I think the floor for them is again, if they stay healthy, is the divisional round again, or even playing in the NFC Championship game. And I think for Stafford's legacy, I think it really needs to be the NFC Championship game. And as far as kind of any stat projections go, I haven't put out any stat projections or anything, but I'm so high on Jared Verse this year. I don't know if he's going to win the Defensive Player of the Year. I'm not ready to kind of put my name on that, but I think he will be in the running right there with Myles Garrett and TJ Watt.
I like that. That's all good stuff. I have one crazy stat projection, I guess. I don't know, like a bold prediction. If you haven't seen it already, I think Davante Adams is going to lead the league in touchdowns. And the reason why I feel this way is because I think for a while now, like last year, 22nd in the red zone, I just feel like this team, when they needed a score, they just had to rely on Kyron. I think it's going to benefit them that's on tape, right? And we know that, you could just have your way. Kyron's going to eat and he's going to score touchdowns. But now you have Davante Adams. Now you have Puka Nacua. Now you have, all these weapons. And it's like, well, last year, Cooper Kupp's not getting that, that separation in the past where he's not really helping you in the red zone like he has in years past. And Sean McVay, you and I have talked about it. We love Sean McVay. We've loved him since the beginning, but you and I have texted about this for years. His red zone play calling, he gets way too cute. And he loves that back shoulder fade that you absolutely hate.
I hate it.
And he's not going to stop using it, right? Like a very stubborn manager in the MLB overusing their bullpen, cough, cough, Aaron Boone. I'll tell you right now, Sean McVay is not going to change. Now, the good thing is Davante Adams is probably one of the better, back shoulder fade receivers in the league. And I think they're going to use him a ton.
No, I agree. Like we have texted about it, and like I've said, I'm already preparing myself to watch about 300 back shoulder fades this year in the red zone for that exact reason. It's something that Davante Adams really excels at. His body control and just ability to high point the ball is second to none. And I fully expect McVay to take full advantage of that.
Yeah, no, that's the thing I think I'm most looking forward to. I'm also looking forward to the defense and everything. Cause I mean, you look at Albert Breer coming out and saying, yeah, he thinks they might have the best defensive line in the league. And I'm a lot higher in the secondary than most people are. So, there's that. This is my favorite linebacker room in recent memory for the Rams. Barring a certain, we'll get into that, but I love me some Sean Dolak. If he doesn't make the team, it's going to piss me off. Real quick before we go into that segment, do you think right now that the Rams will make a deadline deal, or are they set with this roster?
I wouldn't put them I wouldn't put it past them to make a deadline deal right now. Just kind of how they, I think, are approaching 2026. I don't see them trading one of their first round picks to acquire a player if they can, make a deal like they did for Austin Corbett. That just, I think that was, what was that, maybe a second or third round pick. Kevin Dotson was a fourth round pick. Same with Sony Michel. That was a fourth round pick. If they can get a deal like that, I could see it, but. And I wrote about this last week. It's like, at what point though? Like this team is like we've talked about. This team is Super Bowl ready. Like, is there a point where you don't say to hell with 2026? Like 2026 is still important. Like that is still a loaded quarterback class. And you still probably need to get your replacement for Stafford in that draft. But at what point, if a Micah Parsons caliber player is available, where Micah Parsons is more valuable than any player that's going to come out in the 2026 draft class, at what point do you at least consider trading away one of those first round picks? But I personally don't see them doing that. If there's an underrated trade that can maybe help out their depth or whatnot, or give them a boost at a position if there's an injury, I could see something like that.
Yeah, no, I like that. And you'll get a kick out of this name, Zaylor Swift. Appreciate you with the 5 there. We have so much offensive weapons. I doubt Jimmy could mess this up if he needed to step in. So we'll get to the next segment here, but Blaine, how do you see it? Because I get what Zaylor's saying. And I think Jimmy Garoppolo could be like that Nick Foles if, God forbid, Stafford went down and they were in the playoffs already? Yes, I do. But that's not necessarily because of Jimmy Garoppolo. I think it's more so what is around him. I think he's good enough to play within the confines of a system, which is why he's the backup quarterback. But I feel like the Eagles are too good where I just don't know if you're beating the Eagles in, say, an NFC title game without a Matthew Stafford. No,
I 100% agree. I think, fans can point to, Jimmy Garoppolo got the 49ers to the Super Bowl, but that was also 5 years ago, and Garoppolo isn't that quarterback anymore. He's not. He's a guy that, if Matthew Stafford is out for 3 or 4 games in the regular season, he's somebody that's going to keep the offense on track. So, do I trust, like you said, do I trust Jimmy Garoppolo in a playoff run, going into the link to beat the Eagles? Absolutely, 100% not. But do I trust him to keep the offense on track for a game or two if needed? Like in 2023 when the Rams had to throw Brett Rippon under center at Lambeau Field. Sorry to bring that game back up because that was terrible. But that's the point though. I trust Jimmy Garoppolo in that type of situation, but not necessarily holding down the fort for a long period.
I like that super chat because it gave us an avenue to talk about that. Because I mean, we do agree. I think Garoppolo. I mean, could you beat Philly? Yes, you could beat Philly with Garoppolo. You could have a defense that gets a lot of turnovers. You can win any game, right? Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl, but more often than not, Jimmy Garoppolo isn't going into the link and beating Philly. That's just probably not going to happen. So is it possible? It's why, Blaine, we've talked about this before. When people say Jared Goff is incapable of winning a Super Bowl, I just disagree. I'm not the biggest Goff fan, as you know, but if the Lions go to the Super Bowl, it's not like they can't win because Jared Goff's their starting quarterback. Every game is different, but more often than not, you would prefer, other quarterbacks. So that's how I feel about Jimmy Garoppolo. So I definitely agree with you. And I liked what we saw out of him last year, but at the same time, did they win the game? They did not. And he did have a chance at the end of that game. They should have won. It was actually a game that the Rams kind of let go. But at the end, I mean, he had possession right at the goal line and just wasn't able to get it done. So I like Garoppolo, but I think it's always important to realize, look, Garoppolo can start in this league doesn't necessarily mean he should be starting. Okay. Just because he can, and we always hear, oh, he could be a starter. Yeah. It doesn't mean he should be a starter. And just because he had other deals, other places doesn't necessarily mean he would have won those starting jobs. And I think that's the big thing. Like the Giants, I know we're interested. I know the Browns, he probably wins the Browns job. You could probably win the Browns job. They got Joe Flacco, who's in a wheelchair. He's probably going to be the starter, but all jokes aside, I think Garoppolo is a really good backup, probably one of the better backups in the NFL. So the Rams have one of the more fun quarterback rooms, I would say, out there. And Stetson Bennett's been fun to watch in preseason. But that leads us to our preseason segment here. Willie Lampkin IV, Sean Dolak. We could talk about other guys, but I really want to, kind of hyper focus on those two, because they were the big name UDFAs. There are guys, right? I mean, we put the flag, we planted the flag and everything. Those are our guys. Other people can have them too, but we claimed them as well. Do you think they make the team? What was your take on, just how did they look in your opinion on Saturday? And, what are your expectations for them if they are both kept?
Yeah. Willie Lampkin, I think definitely has a shot to make this roster. I think he was one of those players that I was really excited to watch coming into the game, and he just blew my expectations out of the water. He was unreal. I think he was a guy that a lot of people in the NFL, the NFL included, they weren't sure how a 5'10", 290-pound center was going to hold up. And then I'm watching the All 22 last night, and he's moving around a 342-pound defensive tackle, and it's like, yeah, he can more than handle it. I mean, how this guy? I remember being at the Senior Bowl last year, and he's a guy that people were buzzing about, a guy that people were talking about, and then he doesn't get an invite to the combine. He doesn't get drafted, and if this guy was 3 inches taller, he probably is a top 75, top 100 pick in the draft. He's such a size anomaly that the NFL didn't take a chance on him, and now that I think I was texting you last night, nobody in the NFL wanted to take a chance on him because they were unsure about those size concerns, and now he's put out good film and has shown that he can handle it. Like, there's no reason now for teams not to also take that risk if he becomes available again. So I don't think he's a guy that the Rams can sneak off waivers. I think he's someone that I don't want to get hyperbolic or overreact, but is he someone that could push Bo Limmer a little bit? He's the same in terms of weight and arm length. He has the exact same arm. He's the exact same arm length as Coleman Shelton and the exact same weight as Coleman Shelton as well. So he fits as outside of the height. He kind of fits the kind of the size profile that the Rams kind of have at the center position already. And then he's just very cerebral. He's highly intelligent. At a position where low man wins, like, is it really that big of a deal that he's 5'10"?
I agree entirely. Size is not a skill. My guy Emery Hunt has always stressed that it is not. Willie Lampkin actually uses what is considered a deficiency when looking at prospects. He uses that to his advantage. And to your point, low man wins. His leverage game is special. And this is a guy who was dealing out pancakes like he was, IHOP. I mean, it was crazy. I know, we joke about it, but it's like, I saw 3 pancakes on one play. I mean, like, how is he doing that? And that's the thing, is like, when you watch the tape at North Carolina, you're like, okay, they just missed the mark on this guy. Guess what? These guys exist all over the NFL. These guys work out. And I said it when I was watching his tape. I was like, especially when I was doing my video after they signed him, and I'm like, dude, this guy has way better technique than most of the offensive linemen in this draft. Way better. And on top of that, not only does he have great technique, but he's got that fire. Like, he's got a mean streak to him. Like, he's going to toss you to the ground and ragdoll you type shit, And that's the thing with him, is that he's not just a guy that's moving people. He's a guy that's burying people. There is a difference. When you're able to take one of the defensive linemen on the field and take them out of the play, eliminate them, erase them off the map, well, it's going to make your running a lot easier. And we saw that there was a Jarquez Hunter run where he's running right through and then just levels them. And I just think, Blaine, we were actually texting about earlier today and just kind of going back and forth and, picking each other's brain. And I mean, with the offensive line, you actually just dropped your 53-man roster projection. I have not dropped mine yet. But with yours, you pretty much have very similar to me. You don't have Quesenberry making the roster, though. But we have almost the identical thing. You talked me out of keeping Justin Dudek. I was all in on that, but I actually get it, because what's actually really interesting is Willie Lampkin played 32 snaps. Bo Limmer played more. Not only did Bo Limmer play more, Dudek played more. So I don't think he's going to test Bo Limmer this year. Like, I think Bo Limmer is locked in, but I do see what you're saying. I think this Willie Lampkin is somebody that could even start someday. And you could be looking at maybe the Rams' future center.
And he played multiple. He played multiple spots on Saturday too. He started out. He started out, I think, at right guard, and then they moved him over to center later in the game. And if you're looking for a depth piece, like the Rams especially, you really want that versatility. Like, this guy can play all 3 interior spots, no problem.
Yeah, and it's actually kind of funny that Arizona didn't go after him with Kyler Murray. He'd be able to see over him pretty easily.
Right.
I don't. They missed the mark there. But no, all jokes aside, I think Willie Lampkin has the inside track to make this roster. And we actually were talking about it yesterday, and I sent you the quote from McVay. Normally, when McVay is talking about random UDFAs after preseason, and not like right after, we're talking on like Sunday, not like right after the game. That says something, right? That like, you know, perks your ears up a little bit. You're like, okay, well, I guess now I have to actually look at this because, I mean, you mentioned Jay Toa or Toya is 342 pounds. Okay. And you posted this clip. So it's on your Twitter at B Grisak TST. You see it on the screen there. Yeah, that wasn't even close. That guy had no chance. So yeah, I'm gonna plant my flag here. Not only am I a huge Willie Lampkin the fourth fan, I think he's making this team. I'm actually not even gonna stress it. I think he's making this team. There's no way Sean McVay and, you know, all these guys, there's no way they're gonna look at that guy and say, yeah, you know, we got to cut him. I don't buy it. That's exactly what a Ram should look like. That is exactly what you want to find in the draft. And they found him in UDFA.
Yeah, no, it's. I mean, and the Rams have a history of finding these types of guys. I mean, Alaric Jackson was an undrafted free agent. You know, Kevin Dotson was tossed aside in Pittsburgh as a guy that they couldn't start. Now he's one of the best guards in the NFL, in my opinion. So yeah, it's just to I don't want to say luck into him, but just to you know, be willing to be willing to take that chance on him, and like you said earlier, you know, this guy was playing just playing just lights out. He was taking guys he was blocking guys to the ground consistently. He's just his ability to finish just to finish blocks was notable, and like you said, that's kind of what I think a guy like Sean McVay, a guy like Les Snead are looking for in a Ram.
I agree. And this isn't the only guy, by the way, who they grabbed that was short. Aaron Donald was considered short, but even just this offseason, they went after Poona Ford, who's 5'11". So this is not a team that focuses so much on the size. I mean, Dante Dion played actual reps for this team at 5'8", and Nickel Roby Coleman was 5'7". You know, so it's like I will say there are teams that obsess over the size and everything. The Rams are not one of those teams. They're not one of those teams at quarterback either because they drafted Stetson Bennett. So there you go. They're just not one of those teams that obsesses over size. And so I think he's got a really good chance. But, you know, looking at Sean Dolak, it's a little bit of a different story. The size, you know, 6 foot, 221, the same measurables as the guy that I compare him to, Matt Milano. You know, where are you on him? Because I mean, you know, I've always been huge on Sean Dolak. I had him in all my mock drafts going to the Rams, and then they ended up signing him. Still don't know how he wasn't drafted. I had a third rounder on him, but he looked good. I think the thing that concerns people for people that were really looking for him, two things. One, he plays the entire game, like pretty much. He played the most snaps of anybody in the defense. And then two, the thing that really concerns people is that Troy Reeder did not play at all, which almost kind of signals he's made the roster. But I want to hit you with this, right? What if they've already seen everything about Troy Reeder? I saw this earlier today. What if they're just like, Troy Reeder playing in preseason is not going to help him at all. It's only going to put him in danger. We're not keeping him, right? So if they're not keeping him, let's just say for a second they're not. They're just letting him, you know, work in the off season, or, you know, during their off season program, in training camp, whatever. And let's just say they already know they're cutting him. Why would they want to throw him out there when he already has NFL reps? He already has a reputation. If he goes out there and gets hurt, it kills his chances with another team. Or if he goes out there and he struggles, it kills his chances. So I'm not saying I entirely agree with that. I do feel like Reeder's going to make this 53 just like you do. But what are your thoughts on kind of that, and then how you see Dolak potentially making this roster or not making it?
Yeah, I know. I think that's a valid point. It's one I'm not fully on board with, but I just because last week when Nate Landman was out with his injury, you see clips of the joint practice with the Cowboys, and it's Troy Reeder lining up next to Omar Spates.
That's the one right there. I saw that and I was like,
yeah. So, unfortunately, I do think he's going to make the roster. I don't see him starting. I think he's kind of more of a special teamer, and just kind of a veteran presence to have in what is a very young linebacker room. But I do think it's a valid point that, hey, this is already known commodity. Like we know what he is. He's been in this locker room a couple of years now. Like we know we have this guy. Let's get a guy like Pupal some reps. Let's get a guy like Dolak some reps. Where those reps are actually Tony Fields actually had a pretty good game. Elias Neal. Let's get those guys some reps that are and those reps are going to be valuable for those guys. So I think it is a valid point, and it's one that, had I not seen the clip with Troy Reeder lining up next to Omar Spates, I could probably get more on board with. But as far as Dolak's path to the roster, I think with Reeder, if Reeder does make it, I think it's the path is a lot more difficult, I guess. I could still see it. It's going to be tough for them to, I think, sneak him onto the practice squad, just because he was one of the better undrafted free agents. He might be one of those guys that unfortunately they end up losing, which would really suck, and I think make a lot of people kind of upset, especially if the reason he did get lost was because of Troy Reeder. Yeah, so I mean, this is a team that hasn't necessarily valued the linebacker position in the past. I don't necessarily see them keeping 5 linebackers on that 53 for a position where they really only ever play 1 or 2 at a time. Especially, Chris Shula played a ton of dime defense last year. I see him doing that a lot this year, which means only 1 linebacker is on the field. So unfortunately, I don't see them keeping more than 4. And for Dolak, just with how much this team unfortunately just loves Troy Reeder, it's just the path is, I think, very difficult.
Yeah, it's kind of sad because I do like Troy Reeder as like just a depth guy, But yeah, if he's here instead of Dolak, that's where I kind of draw the line, because you can see and there's actually a couple layers to this, right? I'd say the first thing I think of is I understand. You're trying to craft together the best 53 roster, but we've seen in the past, like I believe Charles Woods is an example here. They felt they had to keep him. Did they need to keep him? No, their cornerbacks were good, right? But I feel like they had to keep him with a Josh Wallace because they knew that one of those guys was going to get picked up. And I feel like they've done that before. So I could see it, but then I was going to hit you with the second layer. Blaine, you study these rosters, you're really good at trends, right? You always follow trends. You do it, with the Sneed snacks, you know what they look for. I mean, I know what they look for, but you always have like an article that has everything broken down. So I'm going to hit you with this trend. When is the last time the Rams have kept 5 inside linebackers on a roster?
Not recently. I couldn't tell you, but it has not been recently.
It's got to be like back in like Clay Matthews, maybe.
Yeah,
right?
maybe, yeah.
But that's a completely different. Like they changed their defensive philosophy since then. There's not as many base, there's not as many base looks. Like you said, they're playing more dime. We're hearing a lot of like Tank McCullough is going to have he's going to have a bigger role, and it's like, well, if he's going to have a bigger role. And I'm trying to fill in the blanks here. It's like, oh, he's going to have a bigger role and all that. But then I think, Blaine, this is what I think about. And this is kind of the saving grace for a player like Sean Dolak. And this could just totally be my copium hitting right now, which is possible. There's both. But the argument for him is that you don't play all 53 every single game. So you do have, 6 inactives? It's a 47 active list. Yeah.
I think it's 48. I think so. I think it's 5 inactive.
Okay. Of 48. Yeah. So we've seen in the past where they've kept guys and you're like, I don't know why they kept them. And it's not like they're playing, right? They're just on the inactives every single week. I could see that with Dolak just to kind of throw him onto the roster. Because I think you got to get creative when you have a really good talent and he's one of the best 53. Sometimes you have to kind of skeet by the whole, well, do we really need to keep 5 linebackers?
I mean, you look at 2022 and they kept Lance McCutcheon. They started that 53-man roster with 7 wide receivers. Like
exactly.
They made it work.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I think that's really where I'm leaning because it's football. So unfortunately, these things have a way of kind of taking care of themselves, if you know what I mean. Guys get hurt, like whatever. Even guys get suspended randomly. We found that. So you never know, right? You never know how the season's going to go. I'm not advocating to keep 5 inside linebackers for any other reason than keeping Dolak, but I would just focus more on Dolak. I would focus more on if you're going to go over your budget. If say your budget's 4 inside linebackers, the thing that would be my tiebreaker and what we're talking about right now is that you think Dolak is one of the best 53 and that you think Dolak has a future with this team, which I do believe he does. And when you look at Nate Landman on a 1-year deal and Troy Reeder on a 1-year deal and Omar Spates is, he's in his 2nd year, but after that, it's Spates, it's Paul, and then it would be Dolak. Right. So I feel like it would make sense, but hey, we'll see. They did punch a little bit above their weight class with those 2 UDFAs that we just talked about, Willie Lampkin IV and Sean Dolak. They normally don't do that. So those were some pretty big ads, but I guess really kind of moving on to this next segment here. What are you hoping to see the rest of preseason from the Rams? Are there any like breakout performers that you're hoping for, more snaps for a certain player or like a certain player, that is being held out or, is playing that should be held out? Like, is there anything there that you want to throw out there?
Yeah, I want to see Stetson Bennett put 2 consistent good performances together. I think we saw some really good things from him against the Cowboys. I think undoubtedly that was probably his best game. He's played in the preseason the last 3 years, and that was, I think, his best preseason performance, which just makes sense, just considering he was with the team all last year and was able to kind of, I think things were able to click just because he was able to spend an entire year with the team and just kind of continue learning the offense and applying that to in game. So I want to see another really solid performance from him. Brendan Presley, I like. He's not going to make the roster, unfortunately. I don't think, but he's, I think, just an electric player. He's kind of doing some of those jet sweep stuff. Had the touchdown, obviously. I think he made a nice catch across the middle as well. Defensively, I think you look at the defensive linemen actually kind of impressed me. Jack Heflin, Bill Norton, I think were and Ty Hamilton too. I think we're all pretty solid there in the middle of the defensive line. And then in the secondary, I want to continue seeing like guys like Charles Woods, guys like AJ Green continue to stand out. Nate Valcarcel was one of my favorite UDFAs that they picked up, and he also had a pretty solid game. And the Rams have all these UDFAs, and there's no way they're going to be able to keep them all. But at the end of the day, I guess it's a good problem to have for sure. So yeah, I think those are a few guys that I'm definitely interested to keep watching over the next 2 weeks or so.
Yeah, no, a lot of names there, a lot of fun. I think for me, yeah, totally echo the Stetson Bennett sentiment.
I guess Cody Schrader too. I don't know how I could forget about him, but he's a guy that they claimed off waivers last year from the 49ers. So if Cody Schrader gets from the 49ers to Rams and becomes a solid contributor, I think that'd be a good kind of way to get ahead of that rivalry a little bit.
Nice segue there, because I really wanted to hit on this, but I was waiting because we were talking about defense.
Yeah.
Zaylor Swift is back at it. Love the name. Thank you for the 5. McVay kept talking about Schrader. He's a Niners guy. We might keep him out of spite. He can run and catch passes. I got to give him more credit than that. That guy's not being kept out of spite. That guy clearly was on the 53 last year for a reason. Those were really good runs, Blaine. It wasn't just late in the game. I mean, you see the suddenness, you see the vision, you see, running, just the pad level, finishing runs, right? Punishing, at the end of those runs. And then, of course, finding a way to get open, you know, in the receiving game and getting that touchdown. I liked what I saw out of him, and he's got my 4th running back spot as it stands right now. And guess what? I didn't have him keeping 4 until that game. So they're going to have to probably keep him. Ronnie Rivers, it sounds like he might miss the rest of preseason. He's banged up. I like Jordan Waters. I think that's a practice squad guy that I would like to keep. You barely saw him at the end of the year, end of the game, excuse me. And he looked good. He has some power to his runs, and he's somebody we'll probably see a ton in preseason game 3. But I think, too, they're going to let Jarquez Hunter, you know, roll, and then it's going to be Cody Schrader for the majority of it. I do not expect to see Blake Corum.
Yeah, I do want to see a little bit more from Jarquez Hunter. I think he had a decent first game, ran hard, which you like to see. I just kind of want to see, I think, a little bit more from him. And like you said, Schrader, I think the thing that just really impressed me was just how patient he was. He didn't force things. He let the hole develop, and that was extremely evident in the second big run that he had. He was patient, and then all of a sudden, KT Levison comes out, opens a hole for him, and he explodes to the hole and picks up, I think, 17 yards or so. And so, you know, I think he brings an element that the Rams don't really have right now, or at least haven't seen from the running backs. Just he's explosive, has that ability in the passing game. Not to say he's going to be a regular contributor in the regular season or anything, but I think he is a guy that I think is just good to have in the running back room as a depth piece.
Yeah, and do you think we get any Terrence Ferguson this preseason? I'm concerned he's just going to go right into the NFL and not have any reps. And I don't love that, but I don't know. What say you?
Yeah, I don't see it, unfortunately. Just especially with him coming off of the groin injury, I think they're going to want to get him 100%. And yeah, like you would like to see him get some preseason work, especially, you know, we haven't really heard a lot about him throughout training camp and OTAs, or at least not what you would have wanted, I think. And that's not to say like he's not going to work out or anything. He could. The games haven't even started yet, so I'm excited to see what it does in the regular season. But yeah, unfortunately, I do not see him. I think the Rams will wrap him up in some bubble wrap until week 1.
Well, hey, that was a pretty important pick that they made. Yeah. They look at him like he's the future. So, yeah, I get that. Sticking with the tight end room real quick, I also have been seeing a lot of, and I think, you know, obviously fans are just, you know, they're going to have their opinions and whatnot, but it feels like nobody wants Colby Parkinson on this roster. I don't know why. They just don't want to give him a chance. I think with the groin issue, I think you got to keep 4. It's not like there's a UDFA out there. Torres just got hurt, you know. There's not a guy out there that's like, oh man, we got to keep him. I actually like that they just have depth for once at tight end. I like their room. I don't think they need to change a damn thing. I think Davis Allen's going to be a much better player this year, was dealing with a back issue all of last year. But what say you? Could you see the Rams, maybe push comes to shove at the end of Cup Day, and they're like, well, in order for us to keep a Sean Dolak or a Willie Lampkin or, you know, a Cam Lampkin or whoever, right? Maybe we have to trade, or maybe we have to cut a Colby Parkinson.
I think had they made the choice to cut Parkinson and keep Hunter Long early in the offseason, like I think that's when you move on from Colby Parkinson. But if you look at the tight ends right now, like he is the blocking tight end. Like all of these guys bring a little bit of, like you said, this is probably the best tight end room that the Rams have had since I can remember, honestly. It's a very solid 4. And they all bring their own unique skill sets. I mean, Tyler Higbee's kind of the trusted vet in that room. Parkinson's a blocker. I think Davis Allen brings a skill set in the receiving game, especially up the seam. And then we'll see what Terrence Ferguson can bring. But yeah, I know like Parkinson kind of disappointed last year as a free agent. Didn't really pick up kind of the slack that was available with Higbee out. But he is the blocking tight end and a guy that they need to keep on the roster.
No, I agree. Again, it's one of those things, man. You know, you start doing the roster math, and I understand how people feel. Okay, maybe we can just move this guy or move this guy. don't fix what's not broken. Okay.
Yeah.
They finally, like you said, this is one of the better tight end rooms that they've had in recent memory. Don't play around with it. Like, you know what I mean? Just don't play stupid games because you're going to win stupid prizes. As soon as you trade away or you cut a guy like Parkinson, guess what's going to happen? You already know. Davis Allen or Tyler Higbee or Ferguson's going to get hurt. And that's
and especially like if this team is truly going to move to more 12 personnel packages, if that's truly going to happen, like you need depth at the tight end position, which they actually have. So like I said, if the idea is to run more 12 personnel, the more tight ends, the better.
Yeah, no, exactly. You keep 4 if you're running more 12. You keep 3 if you're running more 11. Now, obviously, 11 is going to dominate. We know that. But I believe we'll see more 12 than we have. And if you were going to just completely eliminate 12 personnel, there'd be no point of keeping 4 tight ends. So, yeah, there's that. But then, I tend to agree with you on a lot of those. I like to see Mumfield. I know he left the game with an ankle, had a bummer of a drop. And then I thought, and it's hard to say, you saw the all 22. I've yet to watch it yet. I just rewatched the game twice, but when it came to the deep ball on all 22, is that something he could have laid out and catch?
No, I think, I don't know if Bennett expected him to kind of cut more towards the middle of the field. Like Mumfield is kind of, he kept on running straight, and I think Bennett pretty much threw it right in the middle of the hashes, and it was probably, I don't know, I don't think it was within diving range by any means. So it's I think they just kind of weren't necessarily on the same page on where they expected the ball to be, I guess.
See, this is why I always try not to make a huge judgment when I'm looking at the TV. Because honestly, on TV, it looked like, hey, he might have been able to have a Herculean effort and maybe catch it. And like you just said, it like really wasn't close. So
and I think if they connect on that deep ball, I think we're talking about Mumfield a lot differently than we are this week. Not to say Mumfield had a bad game or anything, but he did have the drop. I kind of made up for it on the pass that was tipped, and he ended up coming
Incredible.
up with. That was just a great catch. But I think if he has that touchdown on the first drive, that's this 50-yard bomb or whatever, I think people are excited about him this week.
Oh yeah, like you thought Lance McCutcheon was something. Oh man, if he caught that touchdown, people would have been going crazy. There's been a lot of talk about Mumfield, so obviously I figured I'd bring it up. All right, one surprise cut and one surprise make for the roster. Go.
Surprise cut. We've kind of talked about it. I think if there's going to be surprise cut, it's going to be Nick Hampton. Just a guy that's kind of been hurt his first 2 years, hasn't really impressed too much. Didn't really have a noteworthy performance against the Cowboys. I still think they end up keeping him just because he has been in the room for the last 2 years now, and at least brings a little bit of experience. But if there is a surprise cut, I do think it's him. As for a surprise make, I might go with one of the cornerbacks. I think the Reds very well could keep 4, but I think there's a chance that they keep a guy like Charles Woods or Josh Wallace or something. And because I think that we saw it on Saturday that the Rams potentially have some really good depth at the cornerback spot, and they may not want all of those guys to become available for other teams to snag.
Yeah, it's I texted you this when I was covering the Jets in 2022. It's going to be like that when just every single one of those guys are like, wow, they're so deep. And then all of a sudden their depth is gone because they had to do cut day and they just lose. And obviously the Rams aren't going to lose their depth, but you're not going to be able, in the past, you might be able to sneak these guys through. The Rams are on the radar again, right? The defense is really good. People are paying attention. And you're just not going to be able to sneak guys like that through. Like, I think a Josh Wallace gets picked up. I think a Charles Woods gets picked up. And it won't be like crazy because, Blaine, I don't know if you've noticed. I mean, I've definitely noticed. It seems like teams are willing to work with their guys more than before. Yeah. Feels like back in the day, we used to see a lot more waiver claims. Like the Jets lost 8 guys on waivers that year in 2022 on their defense alone. Guys like Jason Pinnock, for instance. So, yeah, I mean, that used to be really a common occurrence. Now you see it. It's really like specific players from the previous or the draft that just happened that clearly a team really liked. Maybe they interviewed him, right? Maybe they had a private visit with him, whatever. So that to me is why I would probably refrain from cutting any of the UDFAs that you want to keep because they're fresh on the radar.
Yeah.
But
and honestly, like I don't think there's anybody that would surprise me to make this roster. I just tweeted out earlier today, like this is one of the, I think, more difficult Rams rosters to predict just because there is so much depth and so much competition at the back end of the roster. Like last year when Elias Neal and I think what's his name? Corey Durden ended up making the 53-man roster. And I was like, how do these guys make it? I don't think there's anybody that could make this roster that would honestly surprise me just because, like I said, there's so much competition at so many of these positions.
No, I 100% agree. There's a lot of competition. They every now and then they keep a guy that nobody is talking about, and you'll be like, what? Like, and you just kind of have to trust in them, right?
Yeah.
For my surprise cut, you already said Nick Hampton. I am going to say, this one's tough, but I mean, the problem is I don't know what a surprise is, right? Like, what's a surprise? Is Darion Kendrick being cut a surprise? I mean, I think you and I are kind of anticipating that. Maybe for some people it is a surprise.
Or like let's say they're going to have to make a sacrifice at one position to keep like a Sean Dolick at linebacker. Would you like, what if they end up cutting like Xavier Smith and only end up keeping 5 wide receivers?
See, that would shock me.
Yeah.
I think Xavier Smith's a lock. I do. I didn't before, but I do now.
Yeah.
And I was hearing he had a good camp even before the preseason. So, he kind of backed that up. But yeah, that would shock me. If they cut, a really shocking one would be if they cut Bo Limmer. I don't see that. But I mean, then again, they've cut guys in the past. They cut John Franklin Myers, for Christ's sake. So, I mean, it wouldn't shock me if they cut Laryl Murchison or Desjuan Johnson, and they kept 5. Brennan Jackson would be a little surprising. I don't feel like they're done with the development, but they might also feel like, okay, it's been a year. He didn't really do anything his rookie year, has had some injuries. We could probably sneak him on the practice squad. There are guys like that. Like, I think Nick Hampton, they could sneak on the practice squad. A guy like Darion Kendrick, when they cut him, like, he's probably gone because he started games in this league. Like, a team will pick him up.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting on that front. I would say my surprise make is Keir Thomas. And the reason being is he played 6 snaps. He started the game yesterday or, Saturday. And it just doesn't feel like he's getting any talk. This is somebody, I brought this up on my last show. I was like, look, he did a lot in the postseason. Okay. And they were asking him to just come out of nowhere, really didn't get a lot of playing time and just turned it on at the end of the year and really built on it and had some big time plays. I think they're going to keep Keir Thomas. I think that's going to be the surprise keep that they have. If there's one bigger than that, part of me feels like it'll be a cornerback. I mean, I kind of lean. You mentioned Charles Woods. He's certainly up there. Josh Wallace, really intriguing, was playing the star the entire time. Is that a position that's available for him, or is he just doing that? That remains to be seen. I wouldn't be surprised if they kept some random corner like AJ Greed, and everyone's like, wait, what? Like, I thought they were going to keep this guy, this guy, this guy. The Rams know what they're doing. They do things a little bit differently, but at the same time, we get the majority of the 53-man roster we get right. You had mentioned this, and I love the tweet. You said, look, this team, how many positions are you sitting there like, yeah, there's a roster battle? There's no question about any of the starters, really. You know who's starting.
Yeah.
The only question is health. That's it. That's a good team right there. Really good team. And their depth, I've been saying I really like their depth. They looked really good on Saturday. They just did.
Yeah, no, I think they said it was the highest scoring or the most points scored for a Sean McVay team in the preseason, and that's a testament to the depth and just the way that I mean the defense was giving up absolutely nothing until the officiating got involved on that third drive. So yeah, there's so much depth here, and when it comes to cut down day, there's going to be, I think, just a lot of wow, that guy got cut just because like this roster is so deep.
Hey Blaine, it's an entertainment industry, and I'll tell you right now, the Cowboys weren't entertaining anybody, no. So they had to do something. Joe Milton, the Rams should have traded for him, right?
Oh, of course, yes. They definitely should have traded for him. Guy couldn't hit the broadside of a barn, but yeah, it's
at least he throws it 150 miles an hour. Yeah. I had my friend over, and he's like, is he trying to kill somebody? Like the way he throws it so it's like Michael Vick. Like, remember Vick used to just whip it, although he had way more accuracy. But
there wasn't any touch on any of those throws. It's just it's 100 miles an hour all the time.
Yeah, it's insane. Zaylor Swift says, "We good on Reader, laugh my ass off." Appreciate you, Zaylor. And all right, we move on to our final segment here. Won't be too long. But Blaine, you did some homework on the 2026 quarterback landscape, okay? You gave me some names. Obviously, I know Sellers. We all do. Aller, we know. Klubnik. But you threw out Mendoza. So I want to just give you the floor. Say whatever you want to say about the Rams and quarterbacks in 2026, because I found it very fascinating when you mentioned Mendoza, but there's probably other stuff that you want to touch on.
Yeah, I think when it comes to this college football season, it is starting this week. We got week 0, so definitely I think going to be paying a lot. I think Rams fans in general should kind of just pay attention, especially when it comes to those quarterbacks, because there's a really good chance that the Rams are kind of the Rams are gonna lock in on one of those guys come next April. Lenore Sellers, he's our guy. He's my guy. I absolutely love him. Has the arm, just the athleticism, the ability to just kind of create out of structure, which I know McVay likes. I think it's just gonna be interesting to see like what kind of quarterback McVay targets, just because. Not to say he hasn't had his guy, because Matthew Stafford is 100% his guy, but he hasn't necessarily had. He inherited Jared Goff. So like, who's that guy that he wants to develop and kind of build his career with? We're gonna get that chance. And Drew Aller, just as a Penn State fan, I'm a huge fan of Drew Aller. I do think this is a big year for him. I think if there's a guy that's going to drop out of the first round and into kind of early second round area, I think it is Aller. The arm talent is obviously there. The athleticism is there, but if he's going to be a first round pick, a top 10 pick, I think he needs to take more command of that offense. Take more command of that offense a little bit. Show that he can that he can run the offense without a guy like Tyler Warren as part of his skill position group. I think if it comes to like I was telling you last night, if there's a guy that I would bet on McVay wanting and kind of fitting what McVay wants, it's Cade Klubnik. It kind of fits perfectly with that West Coast style offense. Excels out of play action. He kind of, I don't want to say he reminds me of like a Brock Purdy or a Baker Mayfield, but he's not like a Lenore Sellers, Lamar Jackson, where he's going to take off and run for score a 70-yard touchdown with his legs, but he has enough athleticism to create out of structure, pick up 10, 15 yards if he needs to with his legs. Has the ability to kind of hit access those different arm angles, access all parts of the field. Like I said, I think he kind of fits that Shanahan McVay style of offense. And then, yeah, I was telling you about Mendoza. He has all the tools. Again, has the athleticism, the accuracy. Transferred to Indiana from Cal this past summer, and Cignetti, I think, is one of the better offensive minds in college football right now. We saw what he did with Curtis Work last year, and I think you put a guy like Mendoza in that offense, and it was kind of like what's his name, the coach from Washington State, where you just kind of put a quarterback in that offense and they went off. But I think Cignetti kind of has that same kind of is going to have that same kind of effect on him.
Is that the same Signetti that we all know and love?
I think it's his brother.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I also like no. I never want to hear the name Frank Signetti ever again. But it's no, it's his brother.
Oh, the St. Louis Rams fans are like,
No. Seeing Brian Schottenheimer on the sideline last week,
oh my God.
playing the Cowboys, like I get off my television screen. I can't watch this.
I know it's always just former Rams just everywhere. Brian Schottenheimer's the head coach. That's wild.
Yeah.
It's something. I don't know what I thought they were gonna do. It felt like they were gonna get Deion Sanders at one point. I don't even know. I don't know. The Cowboys they are not real. They are just the most unreal organization you'll ever see. They went into this year not even feeling like they needed a running back, or last year. So yeah, I don't know. But all right, man, this has been an absolute pleasure. Guys, just want to remind you, we have the links in the comment section. If you want to help out Blaine's mom, I post the GoFundMe in there, and also his YouTube channel. If you're a Rams fan and you haven't subscribed yet, like we got 136 subscribers over there. Please do me a favor and check out Blaine's channel. I'll actually drop the link in the chat if anybody wants to have quick access there. But,
and small flex, we do the only video out there right now is the Puka Nacua video from last year. But I promise I'm gonna try to be consistent with YouTube this year. I'm gonna make it. That's my goal, is to try to make that a thing. So be sure to subscribe and follow along with that journey.
Yes, it is the biggest freaking flex ever. 9 months ago, I talked to Puka Nacua, 5.3K views. That's the only video on the channel. So he doesn't drop a lot of them, but when he drops it, it's a banger. No, Blaine, appreciate you so much. And guys, I appreciate you guys. We'll be back tomorrow in some capacity. Hopefully we have better news than today, but Blaine absolutely killed it. So be sure to follow him on all social media at Grisak TST, and also be sure to follow him, or subscribe to him on YouTube. Over on Blaine Grisak channel. Look, we just got a subscriber over there. So
let's go.
Let's keep that going. I'll post it at the end. I'll post it in the comments section. But Blaine, this has been awesome, guys. Thank you so much. I'll see you guys tomorrow, and you guys take care. Later, folks.